Hi, in this video we'll be talking about playing tunnels on the violin. We'll be covering what they are, why they're important, and how we can play them well. As to what tunnels are, it's just when you leave your fingers down on one string while your bow is playing on another string. For example, if you walk up a D scale, D, E, F sharp, G, and you go to open A, if you lift your fingers, you're not doing a tunnel. If you keep your fingers down though, while you play the open A, that's a tunnel because your fingers are tunneling over the A string. Now, why are tunnels important? That's probably the question we get the most, and it's because they're quite difficult to do at first. For at least 3 reasons, tunnels are important. Number 1, tunnels are important because they give us clean string crossings. So when I cross from the D string to the A string, there's a small extra sound, especially if I'm walking up that D scale, and I lift my fingers. It's very hard to hear, but good players can hear that there's a slight sound going from the D to the A string. So if I keep our fingers down and we cross strings, we get a much cleaner string crossing. The second reason why tunnels are important is because they give us a lot more efficiency and quickness in our playing. So for example, if I wanted to go back and forth from the note G to B and back and forth, this is much easier if I keep my fingers down than if I am lifting my fingers each time. So if I keep my fingers down, it's a lot easier. I don't have to move them at all. They're already in place. An example of where tunnels make playing a lot more efficient would be like in the Bach E major partita. There's these passages where you go back and forth between the D and the A string quite quickly, and keeping the fingers down is very helpful. So I'll demonstrate a small portion of that here. So that part there, where the strings are going back and forth really quickly, I'm keeping my fingers down during that scale. Those are tunnels. The third reason why tunnels are important is because of chords. As you progress in your violin playing, eventually you'll start playing chords, which are playing more than one note at a time. An example of that would be like Bach's D minor chaconne, where we play more than one note and one string at a time, and we need to have our fingers down on multiple strings. And in order to do that well and cleanly, we're essentially playing tunnels. So for those 3 reasons, and there are many more, but those are at least the 3 most important reasons why we do tunnels in our playing. Now, they are quite difficult to do at first. Oftentimes, if you're trying the tunnels for the first time, for example, if you try that D major scale, when you go to the A string, you might get this. An ugly, scratchy sound. If you hear it, and you'll know what it sounds like, it's so long as it doesn't sound like a clean open A, you have a blocked tunnel. That can happen for 2 reasons. Number 1, the back of your fingers are probably leaning up against the open string that you're wanting to play. To fix this, there's quite simple actually. Sometimes people try and do very dramatic arm movements and try to get their fingers clear of the string, but really the difference between a blocked tunnel is this. So here's a blocked tunnel, here's an unblocked tunnel. Blocked, unblocked. It really doesn't take much motion to fix this. What's important is that your fingers are nice and round, you have good round rainbow fingers, that they're standing tall on the fingertips, and that we just slightly lean them just enough to give clearance on the string. Now, the second reason, it has to do with the same thing, that the back of the fingers tend to touch the strings, but sometimes we don't know which finger is blocking it. So what I'd like to do now is give you an exercise that you can do to practice your tunnels with each of your 4 fingers. And to do this, you're going to walk up a scale alternating between the strings. So you'll play open D and A. And now place your first finger on the D string and play E and A while keeping the first finger down. Okay, if you heard this, that's a blocked tunnel. So adjust your first finger, adjust your hand, just make sure that you have a good straight wrist. These tunnels do not work if you have a pizza hand. So make sure you have a straight wrist, good round fingers, get a good clean tunnel. Make sure you can do that pretty consistently. Once you're ready, go on to your second finger, keeping the first finger down as well. So now we're tunneling F sharp to A. Then add your third finger. Now you should have all 3 fingers down. Don't cheat and lift these fingers. No dance parties in the air with your fingers. Keep them all down. 3 fingers, open A. And then lastly, the hardest one for most people is the pinky. You want to make sure you still have a rounded pinky on the fingertip. And the open A and the fourth finger A should sound the same. Okay, that's the exercise, and I'll demonstrate now how I would play it going up and down the scale, and then you can apply that to your other strings as well, your G and your D and your A and your E. So here it is, the exercise for your tunnels on the D and the A string. And then you could do the same thing on the G. And coming down, and the same on the A and the E. As you play it faster and faster, it starts to sound like a fiddle piece, because fiddle pieces as well require good use of tunnels. So that's been a brief tutorial on tunnels, why we should use them, how we can play them well, and why they're important. So keep practicing these. Look for areas in each song that you have where you can implement your tunnels and use them effectively to help improve your playing of your pieces. So that's it for today. And if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, happy practicing.